Frankie Martinez, and welcome to the very first episode of your Good Life Now podcast. This very first season, we're going to be talking about life purpose. I thought life purpose would be a great way to kick off the podcast, especially after the 2020, the year that we've all been through. Many of us have been forced to switch careers, maybe rethink our purpose, change what we do, even just the way we do it, start a side hustle, so many different things going on that I thought life purpose would be a great way to kick off our podcast. So here we are. Life purpose is, I believe, so key to living the good life, a fulfilled life. And really because when you step into your life purpose, things click. Things come alive. I mean, it's just, think about the times in your life whenever you've been living on purpose, whether it's playing a sport or doing something that you love, spending time with your family, maybe even going on a vacation or creating something or completing a project or hustling hard at work. Whenever you do something like that, it just makes you come alive. It makes you feel like life is good, like everything's going great. And it also brings things into perspective because it reminds me of this story. A business owner friend of mine told me that when their business office, when their business was doing great, and I mean, they were reaching their goals, they're making the most sales. He said everyone in their office was walking around, high-fiving each other, just celebrating and just enjoying life because they're on purpose. They're doing what they're supposed to do, right? But he said that he noticed the drastic difference that when the sales started to plummet, when they didn't have as much going on, things slowed down. That's the point where people, he said he noticed his employees, they started even complaining about the color of the carpet. You know, why is this cabinet over here? Why don't we redo this or that? So it's funny because they didn't care about the color of the carpet when things were going great. They didn't care about the color of the carpet when they were living their purpose, when they're doing what they were supposed to do. It was only when they weren't quite in fourth gear, doing what they felt they were created to do. And that same thing happens with us. When we are living on purpose, the little things don't irritate us. The little things don't even get in our way. They don't bother us. We're too excited to live on purpose and do our own thing. But it's when we feel in life that we're not living on purpose, when we're not really in fourth gear, where we don't really know which direction to take. When we don't really know, should we do this or should we do that? Or we're having to rethink our purpose. That's when things start to slow down in a sense, and we start to complain maybe about not the color of the carpet, but why we're doing what we're doing, or even family members, or who knows. Let's not go too far deep into that. But the thing is that when we're living on purpose, the small irritations don't get to us. But when we are living on purpose, when we're not living on purpose, that's when things can start to irritate us. So in my experience, you won't believe how many people I know who've been discouraged, or they even discredit their life purpose because it's not their job. And this, I believe, is where many problems arise, such as discouragement, depression, major disappointment, because we think like, well, if it's really my purpose, why am I doing it? I should be doing it all the time. And are you ready for the breakthrough? Here is your breakthrough: that your life purpose is not tied to your profession or a position. I'm going to say it one more time to really let it sink in, that your life purpose isn't tied to a profession or a position. And this is so important because your life purpose can't be tied to profession. It can't be tied to position. Why? Because your life purpose isn't what you do. It's actually who you are. It's what you were created to do. It's part of you. And it's so important to know that your profession, your position will change. It can change. And sometimes you can't even control that. Your profession and positions can fluctuate. It can go up and down, but guess what? Guess what doesn't fluctuate? Who you are doesn't fluctuate. So even though your profession changes, it doesn't mean who you are changes. You are your life purpose. Your life purpose is who you are. It's everything you were created to do, and it's a part of you. when you really tap into your life purpose, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you are. It's just gonna beam from you. It's gonna emanate from you. It's gonna come out of you without you even trying to make it happen because it's who you are. But the problem is if you don't accept it or realize that it's who you are, or own your life purpose, then you're going to hinder it. You're going to kind of not walk in that confidence to let it just beam from your life. And it's so important to do that because when it really beams from your life, that's when life is good and you can start doing that. Another thing I get is that people feel like, well, my purpose is I feel that I should be doing it on a larger scale. I should be, doing this or that. But guess what? If you don't start expressing your purpose now, wherever you're at, regardless of where you're at, regardless of what your job or profession or career is, you need to start expressing your life purpose now. Just own it and walk it and let it beam from you. And then doors will open, opportunities will open for it to go on a larger scale, but you will never walk into your life purpose on a larger scale if you don't realize it's not a position, a career, a title. It's who you are. Own it. And what greater story? What greater story in the Bible that expresses and illustrates this than Joseph? The story of Joseph in the Bible. Now, if you're not familiar with it, I'll recap it very quickly. Joseph was a young guy who had many brothers, and he had his dream, and sometimes you shouldn't tell people your dreams, certain people, but Joseph told his brothers he had this dream that they were all bowing down to him, and they didn't really like it too much, so they sold him into slavery. Literally, who does that, right? But they did. They they wanted to kill him, but instead they sold him into slavery. But Joseph had this sense of purpose that he was going to be a leader, that he was called to greatness. And so his dream confirmed it, or maybe even birthed it in him. But regardless of how it got there, he knew deep down inside his life purpose was great. And he was going to do something amazing, that he was going to be a mighty leader. But yet here he is, a slave, literally a slave, sold into slavery. But if you read the story, what's awesome is that even as a slave, he owned his purpose. He began to realize who he is, even as a slave. And as he began to lead and take charge and just inspire and encourage those around him, guess what? His slave owners saw that and actually put him in charge of all the other slave owners. I mean, who does that? This guy is a slave, basically living like a king. And if you really look into the Bible story, it says that everything that the owner had was his. Everything was his. He could do pretty much drive the owner's car, eat from the owner's, his master's food. He could do pretty much anything he wanted. So here, how did he get there? By owning his purpose, walking in it, living in it. And that's what really caused a shift in his life until he got accused of adultery by his master's wife. So, of course, another side turn, like life usually does, give us side turns, right? Little detours that none of us expect. But here Joseph is now on a detour. And now because he's got falsely accused of adultery, he's now thrown into prison. But guess what happens in prison? You named it. He is living his good life. He knows who he is inside. He knows that his purpose isn't tied to his profession or position. It's who he is naturally. He owned who he is. He expressed himself even in the prison. And guess what? The prison warden noticed it and put him in charge of other prisoners. I'm telling you, this stuff is real, guys. I'm not making this up. This is in the Bible, the most inspirational book you'll ever read. So here he is. He's in the prison. And he's again living like a king. He's leading. He's taking charge. And guess what happens there? He gets noticed, and if the story ends up, he gets moved up to Pharaoh, the ruler of the whole land of Egypt, and he becomes number 2 in command, ruling over all of Pharaoh's goods and property, everything. So here this guy is, who was a kid, sold as a slave, then goes into prison, and now he's number 2 in the whole nation. Come on. How does that happen? I'll tell you how it happens. It happens because he started to live his good life now. He owned his purpose. He realized who he was. He didn't need to wait for a title. He didn't need to wait for any position. He realized, I am a leader. I am an inspirer. I am an encourager. I'm going to do this. And he just did it wherever he went. And what did that do? It opened so many doors to really walk him into his purpose at a greater scale, where it became his profession and even his position. But he wasn't tied to that. So I want to encourage you, just like this. I want to encourage you. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for to step into your purpose? I'm encouraging you right now. If you would step into your purpose right now, realize it doesn't matter what you're doing for a living. It doesn't matter what your titles are. Own who you are. Listen and let God put in your spirit, what are you here on this earth for? Now, well, I'm here to lead the land. Well, guess what? If you're here to lead the land like Joseph, start by leading your family. Start by leading your business. Start by leading your personal life. And all of a sudden, if you just own that, you see, your Joseph's life purpose wasn't leader of the land. It was leader. That's it. And wherever he goes, he leads. So you say, well, I'm going to inspire, encourage multitudes. Well, guess what? Your purpose is inspire, encourager, or guess what? Encourage anybody around you. Well, I'm a builder. I like to do this. I like to start things. Well, start something small. Start where you're at. Own who you are. Be the leader. Be the encourager. Be the inspirer. Be the life changer right now with what you got. And you will see things will open up for you, encourage you. And I know that you're going to live your good life now. You're going to enjoy the process. Just like Joseph in a prison or a slave, yes, I'm sure he preferred not to be there, but it was way more enjoyable than if he would have just been miserable, complaining about how wrong his life is. So be encouraged with that, guys. I hope this encouraged and inspired you. Now listen, if you're really not sure what your life purpose is, if you're really stuck, reach out to me, DM, comment, do whatever you can to reach out to me. Let me know your questions, because I would love to answer some of your questions even right here on this podcast. What a great way for not only you to get answers, but other listeners can get answers as well. So I think that'd be a great way. Now, obviously, if you really enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. That really helps the podcast get discovered by other users. And most importantly, share this podcast with that friend that came to your mind that you know that really needs to hear this, okay? Share it with them and let it not only encourage you, but let it encourage your friends and your family members that God brought to your mind even as you were listening to this podcast, okay? So thank you so much for spending time with me, and cheers to your good life. Good life. I'm just living that good life. I'm just living that good life. I'm just living that good life. Good life.